guys. Welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake. I hope that you are having a wonderful week this week. And now that we're hanging out together this Thursday, I know it's going to get even better. Last week, I actually didn't have like an official podcast episode. I did a vlog on YouTube instead. I've been finding that that's like really fun for me lately. It's just like vlogging on YouTube and doing things that are like restful and cozy. And all that to say though, I'm super glad that I'm back on the pod with you guys today. It is so fun getting to like just chit chat and hang out. And today I'm going to be honest with you. Today's episode, kind of deep. We're going deep, guys. We are talking all about anxiety. Anxiety. It's like not a fun word, but if you say it in a fun way, maybe it sounds more fun. I don't know. Well, obviously I am not like a counselor or a therapist or anything like that, but I am a follower of Jesus and I'm a human. And so I deal with anxiety. So really, I just want today's episode to be a little bit slower and maybe more reflective and hopefully encouraging if you're dealing with anxiety right now, because I really think that we all deal with anxiety in some way. Maybe for you, it's like a physical response to anxiety, like your heart starts racing or your chest gets really tight. I definitely get that sometimes. Or you can't shut your brain off at night. That definitely happens to me too. Or maybe it's like situationally for you, like when you have a big thing coming up, whether it's like a big shoot or you have to draw a boundary with a client and send an email that makes you nervous. I definitely have done that. Or maybe like you wouldn't even call what you deal with emotionally anxiety, but maybe you experience worry or pressure or just like a heavy feeling that you don't really want to call anxiety, but it's there. But really, like whatever you call it, we all know what pressure, anxiety or anxiousness or worry or whatever feels like in our lives because we're human. But I think like as business owners, especially those of us who like create our own rules and rhythms in our business, it means that like we carry a lot. And therefore, we have pressures that we carry where we're going to feel anxious about it because we're the ones making decisions, right? Like we're the ones making sure we can pay our bills. We're the ones setting boundaries, like I said, with clients and wearing all the hats in our business and trying to get it all done. So today, I really wanted to talk about anxiety because it's something that if I'm so real with you guys, I'm like currently dealing with. And this isn't to say like I am, bedridden with anxiety. It's just something where it's like Zach and I are in a season of really high pressure. And we have a lot going on, which is really cool. And honestly, like Zach and I always have a lot going on, but it's like every season there comes more responsibility as we continue to grow in our life and in our marriage and in our ministry and in my business. And like all of those things are awesome, but it makes me sometimes like find myself in just a place of feeling the pressure of it all. So today I just want to slow down and I would love to share 10 Bible verses that have helped me find peace when I feel anxious. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read each one and then I might share a couple thoughts on it or I might just move on. We'll see what happens. But really, I just want this to hopefully encourage you in your life and in your creativity and be just like a community that rallies around each other and encourages each other. And for me, when I feel anxious, the first thing that I need to do, I'm not saying this is always my response, while it should be, but the first thing that I know I need to do when I feel anxious is go to God. And I find that there's such a weight lifted off when I'm able to pray about whatever I'm feeling. I journal when I pray. So I'm able to like write it all down and just like get it off my chest and say, God, I know that you know how I'm feeling anyway. Let me just put words to it. Let's just talk about this together. And it's so crazy how when I'm able to do that, like there is power in confession to God and confession to other people, I think too. And that's in the Bible. Confess to one another your sins and you'll be healed. I think that's in James. But yeah, like when you're able to just like talk about what you're experiencing, talk about what you're going through, I think that there's so much freedom in that. And that's the same for our relationships with God. When we're able to talk to him about the pressures in life that we're feeling, there's freedom in our relationships with him. So that's kind of where I really am like starting all of this with. It's like, yes, prayer and reading the Bible are so helpful in my own life, but I also want to be the person that in our community is able to share those things with others to encourage people. If you are feeling anxiety and you have not gone to God about it, try it. Like, what's the harm? You know, like what's going to happen if it like fails for any reason? I don't think that it will, but I just like, I know so many times in my life where when I've brought it to God, not the circumstance, like the circumstance is probably still the same. Of course, there have been really cool times where I've seen God move, but at the same time, a lot of the time things will stay the same, but I walk away differently. And my perspective on things walks away differently, or the way that I respond to things or people is different when I talk to God about it. So all that to say, take a deep breath with me. Maybe grab your coffee and sit back. If you're on the road, you know, keep your eyes open, 10 and 2, but like get a little comfy and let's just like dive in and have a little community chat, a little community devotional where we read the Bible together. Okay, the first verse that I have for us is Philippians 4:6-7. And this is what it says. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And guys, I've like read that verse probably 100 times, if not more. But lately, I've definitely been struck with the part of like with Thanksgiving. And I think gratitude when I'm anxious is a big deal. Like finding things to be grateful for, whether it's in like my daily life, finding things to be grateful for, or say I'm like mad at somebody in my life or, you know, dealing with something relationally, finding things to be grateful for within that relationship or within that person is massive. But yeah, like I think looking at this, it definitely takes faith to say like, God, thank you that you're going to provide. Even that, right? Like there's gratitude in what he's going to do. But I also think there's so many things that we can be grateful for and thankful for when we just look around in general. But if you can't find anything, you can also just have the faith to say like, thank you for where you're going to provide, God. Yeah, so that's been big for me. The other thing that I think is cool is Paul wrote this and, I didn't write it down and I totally should have. So sorry guys, but a little bit earlier in Philippians, Paul actually says that he was like anxious about something. And I can't even remember what it was, to be completely honest with you. Like I said, totally should have written it down, but y'all can go look for it. But like, I think it's so cool because he is a human, like, or was. Paul was a human when he wrote this. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, he's preaching to himself here. He's a human who dealt with anxiety, and it's not hypocrisy. It's preaching to himself. It's saying like, it's like calling himself up and calling the church as a whole up to throwing our anxiety aside for in every situation to pray and to ask and to be thankful for. And when we do that, we receive peace that transcends all understanding. Like it is super cool to me that like, we have the choice of continuing to sit in our anxiety. And that's not to say our anxiety is like fully solved when we bring it to God. Of course, right? I'm sitting here and telling you I deal with anxiety all the time. But I do think like it's cool to see how there's this trade-off. Like when we do choose to walk with God in our anxiety, that's when we are able to receive the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. And sometimes that like looks like what we expect it to, where truly we are like at peace and we have no anxiety. But other times it's like an active choice in the moment to choose the peace of God. And that truly does transcend all understanding, because it is hard to choose an emotion that you are not feeling. Like that is hard. But I just think that that's such a cool opportunity as someone who follows Jesus, is to choose the ways of Jesus, even when we don't feel it. So all that to say, that is Philippians 4:6-7. The next one is one of my favorite verses that I found myself quoting a lot lately. And it is Matthew 6:34. Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. It says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Woo! I love that one, honestly. And maybe it's just me because I'm like such a planner and I'm always looking to like the next thing. And as business owners, right, we might be looking to like next month's bookings or next quarter's goals or next year's dreams. Or maybe you're like not a planner at all like me and you're just like, I'm just hanging out. And yeah, I agree with that verse. Like today has enough worries for itself. I don't know. I hope that that's you. But for me, I definitely deal with this. But I think like reminding myself that today deserves my full attention is so important. Like there's enough anxiety in just today. Like there's so many things that I can worry about in just today that it deserves my full attention, my full creativity and problem solving to focus on those things, my focus and my presence and like me just being all in on today matters. And I think like when anxiety kicks in about what is like coming up next, the biggest thing that I have found is helpful is to ask myself, what does obedience look like in this moment? What does obedience to Christ look like today? And sometimes what obedience looks like is making a decision that maybe will impact tomorrow. And what's cool about that is sometimes the anxiety things will come up tomorrow. Like that's for future Alex to figure out, right? But then future Alex does have to figure it out. But what's cool is when I am walking in obedience every day as much as possible, right? Because we're all human. We all mess up. But when I'm able to do that, a lot of the time it resolves the anxiety that I am feeling the next day or that I would have felt the next day because I'm pre-deciding things. And if I say yes to something or no to something, I try to make that like my yes or my no. And that doesn't always work, right? But I just think like sitting in the present moment and yes, planning ahead on things like you need to plan when you're getting coffee with people, right? Or you need to plan like when that booking call is or when that shoot is, right? Like you have to plan those things, but not worrying about them preemptively for no reason. Cause like worry isn't going to change anything. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's Matthew 6:34. The next one is 1 Peter 5:7. And this one is super short, guys. It's cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And I'm not going to harp on this one a ton because I think it's so beautifully self-explanatory and simple. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. There's another verse in the book of John, and it's the shortest verse in the whole Bible. And it says, Jesus wept. And it was when a woman whose brother had died came to him and said, Lord, Lord, if you would have been here, then my brother wouldn't have died, because she believed in Jesus's power to heal him. And what she didn't know is that Jesus was actually about to raise him from the dead, which is even cooler, right? But in that moment, she didn't know that. And she was just feeling overwhelmed with emotion and sorrow and grief. And she let him in on it. And Jesus wept. And that's such a beautiful picture of like knowing that he cares for us. It's not just that he's this like God isn't this judgmental guy in the sky and just like looking down on us like little ants and throwing tornadoes at us and lightning bolts at us if we do something bad. No, he's the kind of God that is somehow available to us, even though he's the God of the universe. What a flippin' mind-blowing thing, guys. Like that is so crazy. Somehow he is like, he's literally the king of the universe. And yet he decided to come to earth wrapped in flesh and deal with all of our sin and brokenness and invite us in and say, cast all your anxieties on me because I care for you. Doesn't that just feel like you're throwing something heavy off your shoulders when you think about it? Even if like, what I love about this is like, sometimes our anxiety is by our own doing. Sometimes our anxiety is because of our own mistakes or brokenness or places where We unfortunately have been a victim in our past to things, and then we respond with the patterns that we know from our families, or sometimes it's because we weren't prepared when we should have been in our business or whatever it might be, right? But like, what's so cool is he doesn't say cast the anxieties that happen to you on me. It's just cast all your anxiety on him. So it doesn't matter if you created your own anxiety or not. He cares for you regardless, and he wants you to come to him. That's such a beautiful picture of God's character. He's so kind and so loving and so compassionate, and he just desires his children to talk to him. Number 4 is Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. And this is kind of similar to one that we were reading before, where it almost feels like a trade-off, like whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. When we can trust in God, he keeps us in perfect peace. And nobody is perfect at this. So like everyone is going to deal with imperfect peace. Like I said, dealing with anxiety, guys. Like this is not me higher than thou talking down to these people randomly listening to my podcast. Like, no, not at all. Like this is something that I deal with when I misplace my trust and I put my trust in a person, or I put my trust in my own being, and I feel prideful, or I put my trust in my business and the amount of money that I can make. I will not be kept in perfect peace because no one can hold my trust and actually hold up to it except God. Everything else is going to fail me, but he is good. He won't fail me. Okay, guys, number 5. Number 5 is Psalm 94:19. And this one is also pretty short, and I just love it. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy. And I just love this. Like, going back to how I was saying, like, God doesn't always just make our anxiety disappear, but instead he meets us in it. His consolation brings me joy. Sometimes his comfort comes through people or scripture or just through him himself, right? But I love that, like, it's not just that he brings us peace or calmness. No, he transforms what is going on in our souls to give us joy. He is the God who redeems. He's the God who restores. He's the God who heals. He's the God who turns graves into gardens. And that's the God that we serve. And when anxiety is great within us, he comes and comforts us and turns it into joy. Okay, number 6, John 14:27. He says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. And I love this because, like, peace in the world, it depends on circumstances, right? Like, it's fragile and it disappears depending on if the circumstance disappears. It's kind of like a Jenga tower, right? If we pull that block, the whole thing is going to come down. But Jesus's peace is different. It's not the absence of problems, right? But it's like his presence is in the middle of them. And it's so cool because, like, I love this. Like, he says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. It's not that we have to strive after peace. It's when we sit with him. That's when we're allowing our hearts to not be troubled and to not be afraid. It's when we're sitting with him and just receiving the peace that he's already left with us. It's a promise, right? Like, he's already left his peace with us. We just have to sit with him and receive it. Okay, number 7, Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And again, this verse is so simple, but it's true. Like, anxiety is so heavy, and sometimes all it takes to lift that weight, even if it's just a little bit, is a kind word from a friend. So if you're listening to this right now and feeling weighed down, maybe take a second to speak kindly over yourself, or allow me to speak kindly over you, right? Like, let this be a community where you're feeling comforted, even just by hearing these things, or feeling like somebody's in it with you, right? And guys, like, God sees you in this. You're not alone in your anxiety. You're not alone in whatever emotion is weighing you down right now. Even if no one else sees you, God sees you right now and you're listening to this podcast with purpose, hearing these words. And honestly, like I'm doing this podcast with purpose, speaking kind words over myself right now. But yeah, like anxiety can be really, really heavy. So speak the kind word to yourself. But also, the other thing that I would say is in our community of photographers, but also in your community of your life, in your family, your friends, the people that you see on a daily basis or a weekly basis or monthly, whatever, maybe make it a practice to speak really kindly and encourage people and cheer them up when you don't know what's going on in their lives. So I don't know what that looks like for you, but like maybe have it in the back of your mind of like, how can I make someone's day today? How can I be somebody who is the person who brings the kind word to cheer people up? And maybe you don't even wait to see if they're sad. Maybe you're the person who's going to choose to be a light and be the light of Jesus everywhere that you go. Even if somebody is rude or mean. And that's something I think I've definitely had to like practice in my life. I think growing up, I would have a hard time. I would get very easily offended. And so like growing up, somebody would do something and I was like, why would they do that to me? You know? And now I feel like I've grown, not always, but for the most part, to a place of where when somebody is rude to me, I'm going to take a second, even just internally, and figure out how I can navigate what they're saying to me or doing to me. And sometimes it just requires a question. And then we're able to like turn the conversation and I'm able to encourage them and give them kind words because a kind word cheers it up. Okay, number 8. This one is one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. It's Psalm 46:10. He says, "Be still and know that I am God." I think sometimes I can forget stillness in my daily life. Like I said, I'm very much a planner. I like to think ahead. I like to problem solve, but it's in the stillness that we learn how to trust. And a good practice I have in my life for this is taking a day off and taking a day off of photography. But also, I also take a day off of like church stuff too. I don't work or get paid by the church or anything, but like obviously, Zach and I's life very much revolves around it as we launch our church in January. But like, I try to take a day off of that. And what I think that's showing, even just myself and like disciplining myself to do, is trust in God that He's going to take care of me, even if I'm not making money on this day. Like, that's okay. He's going to take care of me. But like a lot of the time as business owners, our work really does depend on like our own hustle, I guess. But like when we can choose to put things aside and say, I'm going to choose to be still, that's where peace grows because we're learning how to trust God. It means releasing control. I have issues with that one, guys. Like you can still work hard and still show up and still build your like dream of having this business and this life that you have. But I think knowing that you're doing it with God ultimately being in charge and really releasing control and trust to Him just frees us up so much that the pressure isn't on us. The pressure, I'm going to put that on God. Like, God, you've called me to this. Help me. And I've seen God show up time and time again. I could literally tell you guys so many stories of when I first moved to Charleston and I was like, okay, God, you called us here. You need to provide because I am not making a cent. Like, I need to figure this out, Lord. But it was so cool because like there were so many things that happened that had nothing to do with anything that I was actively doing. And God just showed up for us, even in our stillness. So it was so awesome. Okay. The 9th verse that I have for you is Joshua 1:9. And this is a very famous verse. You may have heard this one. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And I love this. This is not like Him saying like, hey, try to be brave, guys. It's Him like commanding courage and backing it up with like a promise too, that He is with us. So whether we're like starting something new in our business or stepping into like a new leadership thing, or if it's something like super deep and we're facing like rejection or we feel alone, like courage isn't about never feeling fear. It's about trust. Like that, honestly, I didn't have this like written down, but I feel like everything that I've been saying is like combating anxiety with trusting God. Maybe trust is the antidote to anxiety because it's trusting that God's already ahead of you and that he's going to be with us wherever we go. Now, that doesn't mean that he like fully takes away any like consequences of our brokenness or our humanity and our flesh and like any sin that we're dealing with. Like, of course not, because he's a father to us who loves to call us up and loves to help us, right? But at the same time, like, he's going to walk with us even in our mess, even in our pit. Like, that's what he does. That's the kind of God that we serve. It's so cool. Okay, the last one, verse number 10 is Romans 8:28. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely had seasons that feel like they just don't make sense, like financially, relationally, creatively, emotionally. I don't know. But this verse is the reminder that nothing is ever wasted. He's working it together for our good and for his glory, even if the process on our end doesn't look like maybe how we expected. Maybe it's disappointing right now. Maybe you thought this would never be your story. Maybe you thought this business thing would be like really crushing it by now, and it's just not. But sometimes I think peace just comes from like remembering that he's not done yet. And when he has called you to something, he absolutely is with you and working it for the good of those who love him. So that is all I have for you guys today. I told you it was going to be a deep one. I got so deep, but I don't know. Maybe you're listening to this while editing or driving or just like, I don't know, mopping your floors. I have no idea what you're doing, but all that to say, I just want you to know that anxiety doesn't mean that you're broken or that you're faithless. It's just like this reminder, kind of like a car dashboard beeping at us. And it's just a reminder to realign, to pause, and hand the weight back to God because he's the one who is strong enough to carry our anxiety. So you're not behind, you're not alone, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And this isn't something that I'm like saying all of this and don't know what I'm talking about. I am in the thick of it, y'all. And like Paul was doing, preaching to myself for this. So all that to say, I hope that this was really encouraging for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this message. If you know somebody who's dealing with anxiety, send it to them. Like send this their way and just like help our community to be encouraged together as we chase after God and we chase after being better businessmen and women. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me today. Like I said, if this episode encouraged you, send it to a friend, but also please rate, review, subscribe. And as always, I love you guys so much and I will see you guys next Thursday. Bye.